Jake Collins stood at the boarding gate of the Celestial Voyager, ticket in hand. The massive transport ship would take him and about 300 other passengers across 4-star systems to Nexus Station. After 15 months of active duty, on the frontier, the staff sergeant was looking forward to 3 days of rest before his next assignment. The line moved slowly. Beings from across the Galactic Federation shuffled forward, passing through the security scanners. Jake towered over most of them. At 6 feet 2 inches, he was average height for a human, but a giant among the delicate Lorisi and the squat Dravians. "Next," called the Zalarian attendant, her 6 eyes blinking in sequence as Jake approached. She had blue-tinted skin that shimmered under the bright lights of the spaceport. Jake handed over his ticket and identification chip. "Seat 47C, please." The attendant scanned his documents. All 6 of her eyes widened when his planet of origin appeared on her screen. "Earth," she said, the word coming out like something distasteful. "Deathworld X772. Jake nodded. He was used to this reaction. "That's right." The attendant's thin fingers tapped her console. "I'm afraid seat 47C is unavailable." "My ticket says." "Unavailable," she repeated, louder this time. Several nearby passengers turned to look. "That section is reserved for civilized species. You may stand in the cargo section with the service drones." Jake felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He knew what would happen if he argued. There would be security, questions, delays. His leave was short enough already. He took a deep breath. "Fine," he said quietly. "Cargo section." The attendant slid his identification chip back across the counter without touching his hand. "Through the back entrance, the cargo master will direct you." Jake collected his small duffel bag and walked away from the main boarding area. He could feel eyes on his back, some curious, others fearful, most dismissive. Humans were rare in this part of space, and their reputation preceded them. The cargo section was dim and cold. Metal containers were stacked in neat rows, secured with magnetic clamps for the journey. A few service drones hovered silently, their indicator lights blinking in standby mode. The cargo master, a gruff Torani with thick gray skin, barely looked up from his manifest when Jake entered. "Human, eh? Stay out of the way and don't touch anything. We lift off in 20 minutes. Jake found a spot between 2 large containers. He sat on his duffel bag and leaned against the cool metal wall. This wasn't the first time he'd been treated this way, and it wouldn't be the last. Earth had only joined the Federation 30 years ago, and many species still viewed humans with suspicion or outright hostility. The ship's engines hummed to life. Through a small viewport, Jake watched as the massive spaceport grew smaller, then disappeared as they broke through the atmosphere of Helios Prime. Soon they were in open space. The stars stretched into lines as the faster-than-light drive engaged. Jake closed his eyes. 3 days in the cargo hold wasn't ideal, but he'd slept in worse places during his time in the military. He was drifting off when he heard soft footsteps approaching. A young woman with silvery skin and large, almond-shaped eyes peered around a container. She wore the formal blue robes of the Lorisi Diplomatic Corps, adorned with golden symbols of office. "Hello?" she said, her voice musical and hesitant. "I'm looking for the observation deck." Jake stood up, moving slowly so as not to startle her. Many Federation species found human movements alarmingly quick. "You're in the wrong section, this is cargo." She blinked rapidly, a sign of embarrassment in Lorisi body language. "Oh, I must have taken a wrong turn. The ship is larger than I expected." "The observation deck is 2 levels up," Jake said. "Take the main corridor lift and follow the blue lights." "Thank you." She lingered, studying him with evident curiosity. "You're human, aren't you, from Earth?" Jake nodded. "Staff Sergeant Jake Collins, Federation Peacekeeping Force. I'm Alara, junior attaché to the Lorisi Embassy on Nexus Station." She tilted her head. "Why are you down here in cargo? Shouldn't you be in the passenger section?" Jake hesitated before answering. "There was an issue with my seat assignment." Understanding dawned in her large eyes. "They refused you a seat." "It wasn't a question." Jake shrugged. It happens. That's not right, Alara said. I could speak to the captain. Please don't, Jake said quickly. I'd rather not cause a scene. I'm fine here. Alara looked unconvinced but didn't press the issue. Well, if you change your mind, I'm in cabin 12A. It's my first posting off-world. I've never met a human before. Now you have, Jake said with a small smile. A soft chime echoed through the ship, followed by an announcement. All passengers, we have now entered stable FTL. You may move freely about the vessel. The dining area is now open on deck 3. I should go, Alara said. My supervisor will be looking for me. Jake nodded. Nice meeting you, Alara. After she left, Jake settled back down. He unwrapped a protein bar from his bag. Standard military, rations, designed for human nutritional needs. The ship's food would be calibrated for the various alien metabolisms and likely unsuitable for him anyway. The hours passed slowly. Jake dozed, read from his portable data pad, and occasionally walked the perimeter of the cargo bay to stretch his legs. The cargo master ignored him. Twice, service drones came close, their sensors scanning him before moving on to their assigned tasks. On the second day, Jake ventured out of the cargo section. He kept to the less crowded areas of the ship, avoiding the main passenger lounges. In a small viewing gallery, he stood before a wide window watching the distorted starfield of FTL travel. Magnificent, isn't it? Jake turned to find an elderly Dravian standing nearby, leaning on an ornate cane. His skin was deep orange with age markings across his broad face. Yes, sir, it is, Jake replied politely. First journey? The Dravian asked. No, sir. I've made this trip a few times now. The old alien studied him with rheumy eyes. Human military by your bearing. You lot are new to the stars, still finding your place. Jake nodded but said nothing. Some fear what they don't understand. The Dravian continued. Remember that. Before Jake could respond, a group of passengers entered the gallery. Several cast nervous glances his way. One mother pulled her child closer as they passed. Jake took the hint and returned to the cargo bay. That night, as ship's time cycled to simulate darkness, alarms suddenly blared throughout the vessel. The cargo master rushed in, his gray skin pale with fear. We're being boarded, he shouted to Jake. Pirates, they've disabled our engines and communications. The ship shuddered violently, and Jake knew they had been snared in a tractor beam. He quickly hid his military ID in his boot and prepared himself. The pirates would expect an easy target, a civilian transport with minimal security. They wouldn't expect a Deathworld soldier. Jake's training kicked in as he assessed his surroundings, identifying potential weapons and defensible positions. For now, he would wait and gather information. But when the moment came, he would be ready. The cargo bay doors slid open. Heavy boots stomped on metal decking. The first pirates entered, tall reptilian Vraxians with scaled skin and sharp teeth. They carried plasma rifles and moved with practiced efficiency. Jake slipped deeper into the shadows between containers. The hunt was about to begin, but the pirates didn't realize they were no longer the hunters. They were about to become the prey. The Vraxian pirates moved through the cargo bay like shadows, their scaled bodies reflecting the dim emergency lights. Jake remained perfectly still behind a large container. Years of military training had taught him how to control his breathing, how to become invisible in plain sight. Check everything, ordered the lead pirate, a tall Vraxian with a scar cutting across his snout. Look for hidden valuables. The captain wants this done quick and clean. 3 pirates spread out, checking containers and scanning for life signs. Jake knew their scanners would detect him soon. He needed to act. The nearest pirate approached his hiding spot. Jake waited until the alien was just around the corner, then moved. His hand clamped over the Vraxian's mouth while his other arm locked around the pirate's throat in a precise hold. The alien struggled for only a few seconds before going limp. Jake lowered him silently to the floor. 1 down. Jake relieved the unconscious pirate of his plasma rifle, communication device, and security card. He quickly checked the weapon. Standard issue, fully charged. Good. The cargo master cowered behind his desk, eyes wide with fear as he watched Jake. What are you doing? He whispered. They'll kill you. Jake put a finger to his lips. signaling for silence. He knew the cargo master was right to be afraid. Vraxian pirates were known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty. They took no prisoners except those valuable enough to ransom. Everyone else was either killed or sold into slavery. The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Attention passengers of the Celestial Voyager. This is Captain Kraz of the Crimson Fang. Your ship is now under our control. Remain calm and cooperate, and most of you will survive this encounter." Jake listened as the pirate captain continued. "My men will gather all passengers in the main cabin. Bring your valuables. Anyone found hiding will be executed immediately." The cargo master whimpered. Jake made a quick decision. "Go," he whispered to the Tyranni. "Join the others. Don't mention me." The cargo master nodded gratefully and scurried away when the remaining pirates moved to the other side of the bay. Jake accessed the ship's layout from a nearby terminal using the pirate's security card. He needed to know where the passengers were being held, how many pirates were aboard, and where their ship was docked. The scans showed approximately 20 pirates spread throughout the vessel. The passengers, over 300 civilians from various species, were being herded into the main cabin on Deck 3. The pirate vessel was attached to the portside emergency airlock. Jake knew he couldn't take on 20 armed pirates in direct combat, even with his Deathworld strength and speed. He needed to be smarter. He needed to use the ship itself as a weapon. He slipped out of the cargo bay, staying low and moving silently through the maintenance corridors. Unlike the main passageways with their smooth walls and bright lighting, these service tunnels were cramped and dark, perfect for someone who didn't want to be seen. From his position in the walls, Jake could hear frightened passengers being marched past. He caught glimpses through ventilation grates. Families huddled together, diplomats trying to maintain dignity, ship crew with hands raised in surrender. "Move faster," a pirate snarled, shoving an elderly Dravian who stumbled forward, the same one Jake had spoken with earlier. Jake continued through the maintenance tunnels until he reached the environmental control room. It was empty. The pirates had focused on areas with valuable cargo and passengers, not utility spaces. He quickly accessed the system controls. As a military engineer, Jake had learned how ship systems worked. The Celestial Voyager was an older model, but the basics were the same. First, he sealed off several sections of the ship, trapping pairs of pirates away from their main group. Then he adjusted the atmospheric controls in those sealed sections, increasing the nitrogen levels just enough to make the trapped pirates drowsy and confused without killing them. The communication device he'd taken from the unconscious pirate crackled with alarmed voices. "Sector 5 doors just sealed. Can't get through. Getting dizzy." Good. The confusion had begun. Jake moved to his next target, the ship's security office. He needed weapons and access to the internal sensor grid. As he approached, he heard voices inside, 2 pirates going through security logs. He couldn't avoid this confrontation. Jake took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the plasma rifle, and burst through the door. The pirates were fast, but a human from Earth, from a high-gravity planet where predators lurked around every corner, was faster. Jake fired twice. Both pirates dropped before they could raise their weapons. He quickly accessed the security system. From here, he could see the main cabin where the passengers were being held. 5 pirates guarded them, while the others searched the ship for valuables. In the center of the cabin stood the pirate captain, a massive Vraxian with cybernetic enhancements visible along his jaw and right arm. Jake zoomed in on the hostages and felt his heart sink. The pirates had separated out several high-value passengers. Among them was Alara, the young Lorisi diplomat he'd met. Her silver skin had paled with fear, but she stood tall among the other selected hostages. "These 7 will fetch a good price," the pirate captain was saying. "Particularly the Lorisi diplomat. Her government will pay handsomely for her return." Jake knew he needed to act quickly. The pirates would soon realize something was wrong when their comrades stopped reporting in. He loaded the security feed onto his portable device and collected spare weapons from the fallen pirates. Next, he headed for the engine room. If he could regain control of the ship's engines, he might be able to break free from the pirate vessel's tractor beam. The engine room was guarded by a single pirate who was busy downloading the ship's navigation data. Jake dispatched him silently with a quick blow to the back of the neck. The engine controls were locked down, but Jake had learned to bypass such systems during his military training. Within minutes, he had restored partial power to the engines. Not enough to break free, but enough for what he had planned. He directed power to the inertial dampeners in specific sections of the ship. In areas where he had trapped pirates, he turned the dampeners off completely. When the ship shifted, even slightly, the pirates would experience the full force of the movement, enough to throw them against walls and knock them unconscious. With a small adjustment to the thrusters, the ship lurched. Through the security feed, Jake watched as the trapped pirates were flung across their sealed compartments, colliding with walls and equipment. 10 down, 10 to go. The pirate captain's voice roared over the communication device. What was that? Report. Someone find out what's happening to the ship. Jake knew his element of surprise wouldn't last much longer. He needed to get to the main cabin, but going in guns blazing would put the hostages at risk. He accessed the ship's communication system and located an emergency channel that would reach Federation peacekeeping forces. He sent a distress call with the ship's coordinates and situation details. Help would come, but not soon enough. He needed to handle this himself. As Jake prepared to move toward the main cabin, the ship suddenly rocked violently. The pirate vessel had fired a warning shot. Whoever is interfering with our operation, the pirate captain's voice boomed over the intercom. Surrender now. For every minute you delay, we will execute one hostage, starting with this pretty Lorisi diplomat. Jake checked the security feed. The pirate captain held Alara by her arm, pressing a blade against her throat. Time was running out. Jake needed a new plan, and fast. Jake studied the security feed showing the main cabin. The 5 pirates guarding the passengers were alert now, weapons raised. The pirate captain still held Alara, the blade pressing against her silver skin. 1 minute left, the captain announced to the terrified passengers. Then the Lorisi dies. Jake couldn't risk a direct assault. He needed a distraction. Looking around the engine room, his eyes fell on the ship's environmental controls. An idea formed in his mind. He quickly adjusted the settings for the main cabin's ventilation system. With a few commands, he activated the fire suppression protocol for that section only. No actual fire was detected, but the system didn't know that. In the main cabin, warning lights suddenly flashed red. A computerized voice announced, "Fire suppression activating in 30 seconds. Please evacuate immediately." The pirate captain looked up in confusion. What's happening? His question was answered as thick white foam began spraying from ceiling vents, filling the room with visibility-reducing, slippery fire suppressant. Passengers screamed and scattered, creating chaos. The pirate captain lost his grip on Alara, in the confusion. Jake watched through the security feed as she slipped away, disappearing into the crowd of panicked passengers. Now was his chance. Jake ran through the maintenance corridors, moving swiftly toward the main cabin. The ship's layout that he had memorized guided him through the shortest route. He emerged from a service entrance into a scene of complete disorder. The fire suppressant foam covered everything, making the floor slick. Pirates shouted orders that no one could follow. Passengers huddled against walls or tried to flee through exits. Jake stayed low, using the chaos to his advantage. He spotted 2 pirates near the main entrance, struggling to maintain control of the situation. With 2 quick shots from his plasma rifle, they went down. The remaining pirates fired blindly into the foam, causing more panic as passengers dove for cover. Jake used the sound of their weapons to pinpoint their locations. One by one, he took them down with precise shots. Only the captain remained. Jake scanned the room but couldn't see him through the thick foam and the mass of bodies. Then he caught a glimpse of movement near the far exit. The captain was escaping, dragging Alara with him. Jake pushed through the crowd, ignoring the fearful cries as passengers recognized him as human. He was gaining on the pirate captain when the ship suddenly lurched violently. Everyone was thrown to the floor. The pirate vessel had fired another warning shot, stronger this time. The message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Jake recovered quickly and continued his pursuit. He followed the captain through corridors, keeping just out of sight. The Vraxian was headed toward the bridge, likely planning to take full control of the ship's systems. At a junction in the corridor, Jake took a chance. Instead of following directly, he ducked into a maintenance shaft that he knew would lead to the bridge through a different route. If he could get there first, he could set a trap. Moving with the speed and agility that made humans feared across the galaxy, Jake crawled through the narrow space. On his home planet, with its high gravity and dense atmosphere, humans had evolved to be incredibly adaptable. What was exhausting for other species was merely challenging for him. He reached the bridge access panel and listened. No sounds yet. He had beaten them there. Jake slipped onto the bridge and quickly took position behind the navigation console. He didn't have to wait long. The door slid open, and the pirate captain pushed Alara inside. "Get this ship moving," he ordered her, assuming she had the authority or knowledge to pilot the vessel. "Take us to these coordinates." "I can't," Alara said, her voice trembling but defiant. "I'm a diplomat, not a pilot." The captain raised his blade again. "Then you're useless to me." "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Jake said, standing up from his hiding place, rifle aimed at the captain's chest. The Vraxian spun around, pulling Alara in front of him as a shield. "The hero emerges," he snarled. "A human, I should have known. Only your kind would be stupid enough to fight when outnumbered." "Let her go," Jake said calmly. "Your crew is either dead or incapacitated. Your ship is still attached to this vessel, but Federation forces are on their way. This is over." The pirate captain laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Nothing is over while I still have leverage." He pressed the blade tighter against Alara's throat. A small trickle of silver blood appeared. "Drop your weapon, human, or I'll open her neck." Jake lowered his rifle slowly, placing it on the floor. "Okay, let's talk." The captain's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "There's nothing to talk about. You will surrender this ship to me, or the Larisi dies. You know." Jake said conversationally, taking a small step forward. "Humans come from what you all call a Deathworld. Do you know what that means?" "It means you're primitive savages from a harsh planet," the captain snapped. "Stay back." Jake took another small step. "It means we evolved in an environment where everything was trying to kill us. Predators, weather, even the plants. We had to become very good at surviving." Another step. The captain backed up slightly, dragging Alara with him. "Our reflexes are faster than most species. Our muscles are denser, our bones stronger." Jake continued moving forward, his voice calm and steady. "But the biggest difference is psychological. We're really good at calculating risks." The captain's back hit the wall. There was nowhere left to retreat. "Right now," Jake said, "I'm calculating that I can reach you before you can cut her throat deeply enough to kill her. I'm also calculating that even if you do manage to hurt her, I can still break every bone in your body afterward." Fear flickered in the pirate's eyes. "You're bluffing. No one is that fast." Jake smiled, but the expression didn't reach his eyes. "Want to bet her life on that?" For a long moment, no one moved. Then Jake saw it, the almost imperceptible tensing of muscles that telegraphed the captain's next move. Jake launched himself forward with explosive speed. To the pirate, the human seemed to blur. One moment Jake was several feet away, the next his hand was clamped around the captain's wrist, forcing the blade away from Alara's throat. With his other hand, Jake struck the captain's elbow with precise force. There was a sickening crack as the joint broke. The knife clattered to the floor. Alara stumbled free, gasping for breath. The pirate howled in pain and rage, lashing out with his cybernetic arm. Jake dodged the blow and countered with a strike to the captain's throat that left him choking and on his knees. It was over in seconds. The fearsome pirate captain was subdued, gasping on the floor as Jake bound his hands with cord from his utility belt. "Are you okay?" Jake asked Alara, who was staring at him with wide eyes. You moved so fast," she whispered, one hand touching the small cut on her neck. "I've never seen anything move that quickly." Jake shrugged. "Human reflexes. Pretty standard where I come from." The ship's communication system suddenly crackled to life. "Celestial Voyager, this is Federation peacekeeping vessel Orion. We received your distress call and are approaching your position. Please respond. Jake activated the comm system. This is Staff Sergeant Jake Collins, Federation Peacekeeping Force. The ship is secure. We have approximately 300 passengers, some injured. The pirate vessel is still attached to our port airlock. We have several prisoners, including the pirate captain. Understood, Sergeant. We'll dock in 20 minutes. Well done. As Jake turned away from the console, he found Alara still watching him with a mixture of awe and confusion. You saved everyone, she said. Why would they refuse you a seat, Kyo? Had no answer for her. But soon everyone on the ship would be asking the same question. The Federation peacekeeping vessel Orion docked with the Celestial Voyager 20 minutes later. Armed officers in blue uniforms boarded quickly, securing the ship and taking the pirate captain into custody. Medical teams treated the injured passengers and crew. Most suffered only minor wounds and shock thanks to Jake's swift action. The ship's captain, a tall Faran with feathered crest, had been locked in his quarters by the pirates. He was released and immediately took command of his vessel, again. Jake sat quietly in a corner of the medical bay while a doctor examined the few scrapes he had received in the fight. The doctor, a Tellurian with 4 arms, worked efficiently. Remarkable, the doctor said, scanning Jake's arm. Your wounds are already healing. Is this normal for your species? Jake nodded. Average healing rate for humans. The doctor made notes on his tablet. Fascinating. I've read about human physiology, but this is my first time treating one of your kind. As the doctor finished, a group of officers from the peacekeeping vessel entered the medical bay. Leading them was Commander Alan Woods, a rare sight. Another, human. Sergeant Collins, Commander Woods said, offering his hand in the human greeting of a handshake. Good work today. The captain tells me you single-handedly neutralized 20 pirates and saved over 300 passengers. Jake stood and returned the handshake. Just doing my duty, sir, the commander smiled. Modest as always. Your kind usually is. The ship's captain approached them, his feathered crest flattened in what Jake recognized as an expression of respect among Firans. I owe you my ship and the lives of my passengers, the captain said. If there is anything I can do to repay this debt, you need only ask. Jake thought for a moment. Actually, there is one thing. I'd like a proper seat for the remainder of the journey. The captain's crest rose in surprise. You don't have a seat? But you're a passenger. I was told seats were for civilized species only, Jake explained without bitterness. I've been staying in the cargo bay. The captain's feathers darkened with embarrassment. This is unacceptable. Who told you this? The boarding attendant, a Zalarian female. The captain made a sharp clicking sound of disapproval. I will speak with her immediately. This kind of discrimination has no place on my ship. Commander Woods shook his head. Unfortunately, it's all too common. Many species still don't understand humans. As they spoke, more passengers entered the medical bay. Many came to thank Jake personally. Some approached hesitantly, clearly nervous, about being close to a human, but their gratitude overcame their fear. Ilara arrived with an older Larisi male who wore elaborate diplomatic robes adorned with multiple badges of office. This is Senior Ambassador Terran, she introduced. He wishes to speak with you. The ambassador studied Jake with keen interest. Young human, you have saved my protege and many others today. The Larisi Diplomatic Corps owes you a debt of gratitude. Jake bowed his head slightly. No debt necessary, Ambassador. I just did what anyone would do. Not anyone, the ambassador corrected. Few species would have had the ability or courage to face those pirates. The medical bay was becoming crowded as more passengers and crew members gathered. The ship's captain raised his hands for silence. Everyone, please. Let us move to the main lounge where there is more space. I believe many of us have questions, and it would be good to address them together. The main lounge was the largest open area on the ship. Passengers filled every seat and stood along the walls. Jake found himself at the center of attention, standing beside the captain, Commander Woods, and Ambassador Terran. Before we begin, the captain announced, I must express my deepest apologies to Sergeant Collins for the treatment he received when boarding this vessel. Rest assured, such discrimination will not happen again on the Celestial Voyager. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Zilarian attendant who had refused Jake a seat stood near the back, all 6 of her eyes downcast with shame. Ambassador Terran stepped forward. Many of you may be wondering how a single individual could overcome 20 armed pirates. Perhaps this is a good opportunity for education. He gestured to a large display screen on the wall. With your permission, Sergeant? Jake nodded, unsure what the ambassador planned. The screen lit up with an image of Earth. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown landmasses. This is Earth, the ambassador explained, classified in Federation records as Deathworld X772. The term Deathworld often causes misunderstanding. Many believe it indicates that the inhabitants are dangerous or primitive. This is not the case. He zoomed in on Earth's surface, showing dense jungles, vast deserts, frozen tundra, and raging oceans. A Deathworld classification simply means that the planet has environmental conditions that would be lethal to most intelligent species in the galaxy. Earth has extreme temperature variations, high gravity, intense solar radiation, powerful storms, and an abundance of predators. Images of Earth's diverse ecosystems and wildlife appeared on screen. Lions chasing prey across savannas, sharks cutting through ocean waters, eagles diving from great heights. Humans evolved on this world, the ambassador continued. Their bodies adapted to these harsh conditions. What many species fear is not human violence, but human capability. The screen changed to show medical scans comparing different species. Human muscles are denser than those of most Federation species. Their bones are stronger, their reaction times faster, their endurance greater. Not because they are superior, but because their world demanded these traits for survival. Ambassador Terran turned to face the crowd directly. What Sergeant Collins did today wasn't exceptional for a human. It was simply a human using the adaptations their harsh world gave them. The crowd was silent, absorbing this information. Then an elderly Dravian spoke up, the same one Jake had met earlier in the viewing gallery. If humans are so physically capable, why aren't there more of them in the Federation? Commander Woods answered this question. Earth only joined the Federation 30 years ago. We're still newcomers. And yes, there is fear of humans in some quarters. But the Federation peacekeeping force actively recruits humans precisely because of their unique abilities. A child's voice piped up from the crowd. Are humans dangerous? Jake knelt down to be at eye level with the young Farron child. We can be if we need to be. Just like your people can be, or any people can be. But mostly we just want to live peacefully with everyone else. The child nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. The Zilarian attendant finally stepped forward, her voice trembling. I refused you a seat because I was afraid. I was taught that humans were unpredictable and violent. I see now that I was wrong. I am deeply sorry. Jake stood and faced her. Fear often comes from misunderstanding. Now you understand a little more about humans. Ambassador Terran addressed the crowd again. The Federation was founded on the principle that diverse species are stronger together than apart. Each brings unique strengths. Humans bring adaptability, endurance, and a remarkable capacity for problem-solving under pressure. He placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. Today we all witnessed the value of that diversity. Without Sergeant Collins, without a human from a Deathworld, many of us would not be alive right now. The main lounge erupted in applause. Jake stood somewhat awkwardly in the center of this attention, unused to being celebrated rather than feared or avoided. The ship's captain raised his hands again for silence. In honor of Sergeant Collins' actions, and as a step toward better understanding between all species, I am designating a special section of passenger seating for Deathworld species on all future voyages of this vessel. More applause followed. As the formal gathering broke up, passengers approached Jake individually, some offering thanks, others simply curious to learn more about humans and Earth. For the first time since boarding, Jake felt truly welcome on the celestial Voyager. The final day of the journey to Nexus Station passed peacefully. Jake now had a comfortable seat in first class, offered by the captain himself. Several passengers had even given up their cabins, insisting that the hero of the celestial Voyager deserved better than a standard seat. Jake had politely declined the cabins but accepted the seat. As the ship cruised through the stars, Jake found himself surrounded by curious passengers. Children in particular seemed fascinated by the human, asking endless questions about Earth and its dangerous animals. "Is it true that Earth has flying creatures that drink blood?" asked a young Dravian child. Jake smiled. "Yes, we call them mosquitoes. They're very small, though, not the giant monsters you might be imagining. And you have water that falls from the sky?" asked another child, a Firan like the captain. "We call it rain. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it comes with storms and lightning." The children's eyes widened at these descriptions of Earth's ordinary features, which seemed exotic and dangerous to those from more stable worlds. Alara found Jake in the observation deck that evening, watching the stars streak by. She carried 2 drinks and offered one to him. "It's water," she said. "I heard humans need a lot of it." Jake accepted with thanks. "A byproduct of evolving on a world that's 70% water, I guess." Alara sat beside him. "I've requested assignment as liaison to Earth for my next posting. After everything that happened, I want to learn more about humans." "Earth would welcome you," Jake said. "We're still getting used to having visitors from other worlds." "It's hard to believe your people have achieved so much in such a harsh environment," Alara commented. "Most species evolve on worlds with stable conditions, minimal predators, consistent climate. Your people faced challenges that would have driven most species to extinction." Jake shrugged. "We didn't know any different. It was just home to us." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the universe pass by outside the window. Then Alara asked a question that caught Jake by surprise. "Do humans feel fear, even with all your physical advantages?" Jake turned to look at her. "Of course we do. Fear kept us alive on Earth. We just learned to act despite being afraid. When you faced the pirate captain, you seemed so calm." "I was terrified," Jake admitted. "But my training taught me to use fear, not let it use me." Alara nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's the greatest adaptation of all." The ship's announcement system chimed softly. "Attention all passengers. We will be arriving at Nexus Station in 1 hour. Please prepare for docking procedures." Jake returned to his seat as the ship slowed from faster-than-light travel. Through the windows, he could see Nexus Station growing larger, a massive structure, shaped like a wheel, with spokes extending from a central hub. Ships of all sizes moved around it like fish around a reef. As they approached the docking bay, Jake packed his few belongings into his duffel bag. Commander Woods found him there. "Quite an adventure you've had, Sergeant," the commander said. Jake nodded. "Not exactly the quiet journey I was hoping for, sir. Word travels fast in the Federation. By now most of Nexus Station has heard about the human who single-handedly defeated 20 pirates." Jake groaned. "I was hoping to have a quiet leave, so..." Commander laughed. "I'm afraid that's unlikely now. In fact, there's someone waiting to meet you when we dock. Admiral Kozlov, head of Federation peacekeeping forces for this sector." Jake straightened. "The Admiral? Why would he want to see me?" "Let's just say your actions have opened some doors," Commander Woods said cryptically. "The Federation has been looking for ways to incorporate more humans into leadership positions. Your demonstration of human capabilities, and more importantly, human restraint, has made quite an impression." The docking procedure completed with a gentle shudder throughout the ship. Passengers began to disembark, many pausing to thank Jake one more time or shake his hand in the human custom they had quickly adopted. The Zilarian attendant approached Jake last. "I have submitted my resignation to the captain," she said, eyes downcast. "My behavior was unacceptable." Jake shook his head. "Don't resign. Learn from this. Teach others what you've learned about humans." She looked up, surprised. "You would forgive so easily?" "Moving forward is better than looking back," Jake said. "It's another human trait." As Jake walked through the exit corridor toward Nexus Station, he found a group waiting for him. Ambassador Terran and Alara stood with the ship's captain and a tall human woman in an admiral's uniform. Sergeant Collins, Admiral Kozlov said, extending her hand. "Welcome to Nexus Station. I've heard quite a story about your journey." Jake saluted, then shook her hand. "Just doing my duty, Admiral." "Perhaps. But you've also done something equally important. You've changed perceptions." The Admiral gestured around them. "Look." Jake turned and saw the main concourse of Nexus Station. A new sign was being installed above one of the waiting areas. Deathworld Species Seating Area. Unlike the cargo bay of the Celestial Voyager, this area had specially reinforced chairs designed for the higher body mass of humans and other Deathworld species. There were water dispensers, higher gravity settings, and other accommodations. "Your experience has prompted a review of our facilities throughout the Federation," Admiral Kozlov explained. "We're implementing changes to better accommodate all species, including humans." Ambassador Terran stepped forward. "The Larisi Diplomatic Corps is also revising its educational materials about Earth and humans. We want to ensure accurate information replaces fear and myth." The ship's captain added, "And I've received word that several other passenger vessels are following our lead in creating proper accommodations for Deathworld species." Jake felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. He had never set out to be a representative of humanity or to change Federation policy. He had simply acted as his training and nature had prepared him to do. "What happens now?" he asked. Admiral Kozlov smiled. "Now, Sergeant Collins, you enjoy your leave. But when you return to duty, I'd like to discuss a new assignment as a liaison officer between human military forces and the Federation. We need more people who can bridge the gap between worlds." As they walked together into Nexus Station, Jake noticed something else had changed. People still stared at him. Humans were still rare in this part of space. But the looks were different now. Instead of fear or disgust, he saw curiosity and respect. A small Firan child broke away from her parents and ran up to Jake. She thrust forward a crude drawing of what was clearly meant to be a human standing tall among stars. "Thank you for saving the ship," she said shyly. Jake knelt down and accepted the drawing with a smile. "Thank you. This is beautiful." As the child ran back to her parents, Jake realized that change often began with small moments. A refused seat, a crisis, a choice to help. And now perhaps a new understanding between humans and the wider galaxy. He had come aboard the Celestial Voyager as an outsider, relegated to the cargo bay because of fear and misunderstanding. He would leave Nexus Station as something else, a representative of humanity, with all its strength, adaptability, and compassion. Admiral Kozlov seemed to read his thoughts. "One person can change perception, Sergeant Collins. You've done that. Now let's see where we go from here." Jake nodded, ready for whatever came next. After all, humans were good at adapting to new situations. It was what they did best.